So where we left off last time was building the tangent corridor, the straight section in, and now we're going to put the cul-de-sac on it. Now this takes some pretty exact steps, so make sure you follow these instructions carefully. We're going to go ahead and pick this corridor that we did last time, which gives us the little tab, the corridor tab at the top. We're going to go into corridor properties. And what we're going to do here is we're going to add a baseline. And for this one, we are going to pick the 2nd Street edge of pavement. And when we click OK, you'll see it show up here. So from this, we want to make sure that the profile that we pick isn't the existing grade. We want it to be layout 3 because that's going to be the proposed surface for our 2nd Street edge of pavement, the cul-de-sac area. We're going to say OK. And then we're going to right click here and do add region. And on our assembly here, we want to pick that half road that we built in. So we'll say OK. And you'll notice that you can now expand it. And on this area, we want to double click or slow double click. And just like we renamed this top one tangent, we want to rename this one cul-de-sac, so that we know which part of the alignment we're dealing with, the tangent straight part or the cul-de-sac end part. So again, we've got our profile that we picked, we've got our assembly that we picked. The next thing that we're going to do is go to the start station, and again click the little symbol, and we are going to pick on the start station where the tangent area ended. So again, if you need to zoom in, make sure you're getting the right area here. And you'll notice that the numbers should line up. I've lost my mouse. There we go. This one ended at 3 plus 59, 79. They may be a little off because this is working on the center line stationing and this one's working on the edge of pavement stationing. So they should be close, but they'll be a little off. Now on the end station, again, click here. We're going to go around to the station over here where the cul-de-sac ends. So that's going to be, again, where it joins up with the tangent part. We're going to go change our frequency here to 5 feet. That means every 5 feet we want it to take a better look. Definitely want more frequency on that curvature of the cul-de-sac here. We've got our start and end station, a frequency, and if you click OK, you'll notice that something gets built in, but that does not quite look right. It's got a big opening here. It's like one lane makes a loop, and we don't want that. We want it solid in the middle. So if you click on this again, and only click on one thing, and then go back into your corridor properties, what we're going to do is set some targets and tell it what to look for. So in this target box on our cul-de-sac region, again, we want the surface to be the existing grade. That's what it's going to cut and fill to. We want on the width alignment, we want to pick the 2nd Street, not the 2nd Street edge of pavement, but the 2nd Street alignment. And we're going to add that and say OK. And then on the outside elevation profile for the slope or elevation, we're going to go in here and we're going to pick our 2nd Street. And that's going to be our surface of our 2nd Street. Again, add, OK. And whenever you get out of here, now you'll notice that we have a nice pretty cul-de-sac. You'll notice it ties in really well with our road, and that it does have some cut and fill, that red line. You'll notice that green and red, one is cut and one is fill, and it's going to color code on which is which. Now on our general topo, this is probably high and it's probably going downhill here, so if that tells you anything about the cut and the fill, it may give you a hint about what's going on there. And that really should be it for your cul-de-sac. So again, if you want to take a look and see how it looks in real life, we can click on that corridor and do a visibility check where we drive it. And it's not going to drive you all the way around the corridor or the cul-de-sac, but it will drive you down and you'll be able to see how it looks. So we'll click on our top surface here. You know, you'll notice base course, pavement level 2, sub base. So we see definitely see our cul-de-sac down there at the end. I always like to go up a little bit higher, and then we'll play, and it shows us driving down to our cul-de-sac. I noticed a little bit of grading issue over here, so whether that's not really going to the correct finish grade, I'm not really sure. Sometimes, again, it takes a little bit of adjustment. But it does look like we have a nice, pretty corridor built around our cul-de-sac here. Goes up to the center line. One other thing you can do is if you think something's not quite right, because you see this does not look like very much cut or fill here. It doesn't extend off very far. Something you can do is you can click on the corridor and then right click and then do an object viewer. And that's going to bring you into where you can see three-dimensional. So see, something is not going right at this point. We've got a bad point somewhere. You can take this and move it around and rotate it, and sometimes that'll help. It looks like our cut and fill is great over on that part, but we do have something is going on part of our cul-de-sac area, and it's probably one of those targets. So whether we picked existing grade or whether we just have a bad point somewhere, you know, that's pretty far off. It looks like we have one point that it was trying to tie to somehow. So that definitely is not right and would need some adjustment. But you know, that would be one of those things that you have to go in and investigate. Maybe look at this from the side view instead of the top and see if there's any lines, you know, or something way down below it at level 0 that it's tied to. Could be what happened. Now the next thing we can do is if you want to continue on with more corridors, kind of like how we did 2 different regions with one being a tangent, one being a cul-de-sac, you can definitely go into your home tab and on your corridor, you can create a corridor for this First Street alignment. So we can pick First Street, and again, I kind of like to hit enter. We definitely want it to be on the surface that we designed, and the assembly, we want it to be the 2-lane road. And again, we're going to open this up and we'll say OK. And you'll notice that it puts a road all the way in. The problem is that from here to here, we already had an intersection designed. And we don't really need the road from here to here. We want it to tie into the intersection. So what we can do is go in and pick this, go into our corridor properties, and again, we can select our targets so that we tell it to look for existing grade. That'll give us our cut and fill values on the edges. You'll notice this cuts and fills around the edge then. See how that extra line showed up, the red and the green? So that's one little bit. The next thing we're going to do is we'll go into the properties, and we're actually going to pick an end station. And our end station is where this ties in to the intersection. And when we say OK, you'll notice that now the road only goes to there. If we go back into this corridor, into the properties, we can actually add a baseline, and this is going to be on First Street, and we'll say OK. We're going to right click and we'll say add a region. It's going to be that 2-lane. Again, you can expand that, and we want the layout to definitely be First Street layout 1. That's what we designed the profile for. Definitely the 2-lane. We want the start station here to go where the intersection ends, and then the end station to be at the very end of the road. Now when you click OK, again, you'll see that it designed it to the end of the road. We don't have cut and fill on it though, so when we click on it and go to Properties and Target, we definitely want it to tell it to look for the existing grade. on both of these target surfaces. And when you say OK, you'll notice that it gets some cut and fill put in here. You can always drive your road. If you click on it here, go to the visibility check and drive. And it always asks you what surface you want to drive. So it should pull up here, and this one was a 40 mile an hour, so it should open up at the top. 40 miles an hour. You can click however high you want to be here, and when you hit play, it's going to show you driving 40 miles an hour around the road that you designed. So here we go around our horizontal curve. You can get a feel for if that curve's a little sharp. Here we have our intersection coming up, and it'll stop at the intersection. You can see how nice and smooth that looks though. We have some weird curb and gutter returns where that intersection got put in. That would be something if you wanted to adjust it, you could. The next thing we can do is go pick that second part and drive the rest of this road. So we'll come over to this part and do the drive, and we're going to click that part of it. And this should take us around the rest of the curve. You can also get a feel for the elevation as you drive around here. Now we are right on the other side of the intersection on this one. So when we hit play, we're going around our other curve. You can see we're kind of going uphill a little bit, all the way to the edge of our road. You can also turn around and go the other direction if you want to see that intersection coming in from over here. And you can see your cut where the existing grade was definitely higher over here, and we had to cut down to get the surface to our road. Over here we had to fill because existing grade was lower. And that was something that we saw on our profiles when we did them. But that should be it. You've got your road design, your cul-de-sac, intersections. That's pretty much it for site design for transportation.